Okay, in this video, we're going to go ahead and solve this equation. But really, the point to this video is not to solve this equation. Okay, so you might be thinking to yourself, well, what are you talking about? You're making a video about this equation. Well, what are you trying to communicate? Well, I am going to try to communicate a critical concept that's relevant, extremely relevant to solving this type of equation in algebra. And I would say like 99% of algebra students don't really fully understand this or may not even understand it at all, which is going to be extremely detrimental to their ability to actually solve this equation. So, what can I be talking about? Well, I'm going to get to that here shortly. But if you think you can solve this equation, I would certainly encourage you to pause the video and get your paper and pencil out and go ahead and knock it out. And then we'll kind of compare notes in terms of where, what skill level you have, in your understanding to what you really need to be understanding for this type of problem. This is extremely important stuff. And again, the majority of students are not fully aware of the concept that I'm going to be talking about. Okay, this is important. All right, so you just stick around for a couple minutes. But first, let me quickly introduce myself. My name is John. I'm the founder of Tablet Class Math. I'm also a middle and high school math teacher, and over several years, I've constructed what I like to believe is one of the best online math help programs there is. Of course, I'll let you be the judge of that. You can check out my math help program by following the link in the description of this video. But basically, I have 100 plus different math courses ranging from pre-algebra, algebra 1, geometry, algebra 2. I'm going to be launching pre-calculus here shortly. I also do a lot in the area of test preparation. So if you are studying for the GED, SAT, ACT, GRE, GMAT, ASVAB, CLEP exam, AccuPlacer, ALEX, well, there's a lot of exams out there, right? Or maybe a teacher certification exam like the Praxis exam or nursing school entrance exam like the TAS. Um, there's a lot of people out there that aren't in a math course, or maybe they are in a math course, but they're trying to get ready for these exams. And these exams have a significant amount of math on them. If you don't do well in the math section, you don't do well in the exam. So if you need help getting ready with your exam, go to my website, check out my full course catalog. I should have what you need. If I do not, drop me a line and I'll help you out the best I can. I also do a lot with independent learners like homeschoolers. I've been working with homeschoolers for 15 plus years. So if you homeschool, I have a great homeschool learning system. And then obviously, I help those of you that are struggling in your current math courses. Now, one thing I can't do for you, all right, that you got to do for yourself, and I'm thinking to myself, well, I can't do this for you, right? I can't, you're going to have to do part of the work, a lot of the work to learn, okay? But what I'm talking about is note taking, all right? It's just apparent to me over decades of teaching mathematics that students who take great math notes almost always do very well in their math classes, and the reverse is true. Students who like to talk in class look at their cell phone. Maybe they have a good friend in their class that takes great notes that they copy from. Listen, I get it. I was once a student, and I wasn't a great student way back in the good old 1980s because I really wasn't focused. I didn't have much discipline. Of course, when I joined the Marine Corps, right after high school, that kind of squared me away and I was ready for college. But the bottom line is this: if you are not focused, okay, if you do not have focus, then you're not going to be able to learn, right? Remaining focused is the key to success in pretty much everything we do in life, especially in mathematics. So the only way I know to stay highly focused while learning is to be engaged in excellent note taking. Or you got to take great notes, and that is hard work, but it will keep you focused because there's too much information coming your way. So look at your notes and just look where you can improve. Almost everybody can improve, but in the meantime, you still need something to study from. So I offer detailed comprehensive math notes to include pre-algebra, algebra 1, geometry, algebra 2, and trigonometry. You can find the links to those notes in the description of this video. Okay, so here is our equation. Um, if you think you know how to solve it, again, go ahead and pause the video and challenge yourself and see what you can come up with. So let's get into it now. And first things first, what type of equation are we dealing with? Well, we're dealing with something called a rational equation. Okay, rational, that word rational in mathematics and algebra kind of refers to a fraction. And kind of want to turn this into a whole algebra lesson on rational equations and expressions, but basically we have fractions going on, and we have these polynomials involved in these particular fractions in this equation. So this is a rational equation, and it's going to require us to find the LCD. Okay, we need to find the lowest common denominator. So here's our denominators. This is one denominator, this is another denominator, and then over here we have 3 over 1. This is another denominator. So one skill that that we're going to need for this particular problem is to find the lowest common denominator. By the way, I have excellent videos on this in my algebra playlist on how to find the LCD of expressions that involve variables. Okay, you need to know how to find the LCD of numbers. Okay, and most of you are like, oh yeah, I know how to find the LCD. If you're like 1 over 3 plus 2 over 10, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, I know how to find the LCD of this. But what if I gave you this fraction? What if I gave you 2 over 170 plus 3 over 562? Well, then, you'd be like, wow, that's like a lot of work, and I'd have to figure that out. Exactly. Okay. So there is the procedure to do this is relevant to this type of problem. So the first skill that a lot of students struggle with in this type of problem is finding the LCD of these expressions. So again, this video is actually not about the LCD, but I've done other videos on the LCD. So check out my additional videos in my algebra playlist, or better yet, just join my algebra course or my algebra 2 course in my Math Help program. Okay, so first things first, we're going to have to find the LCD, and then we're going to multiply the LCD by the entire equation to clear our fractions, and then solve the remaining equation. So if you're thinking in those terms, then that's excellent. Matter of fact, I'll just give you a little happy face for just thinking the right way. No, that's a terrible happy face. We could do a little bit better than that. So you are thinking in the correct way. Oh, I got to find the LCD and clear the fractions. So go ahead and do so, because I'm going to go ahead and show you the problem right now, because if you don't want to see the solution, we'll pause the video. So let's get into this now. Okay, so here is our equation, and the LCD is in fact x squared minus 1. So what we have to do, we have to factor each one. This is 1 over here, so that's not going to be kind of a part of figuring this thing out. So x squared minus 1, we could factor this way, x plus 1 times x minus 1. Here, this is x minus 1. We need all these bases represented, so we need an x plus 1 and an x minus 1 as part of our LCD. So if you multiply these together, that's x squared minus 1, or we could think of the LCD as x plus 1 times x minus 1. Oftentimes it's good just to leave things factored, but I'm going to go ahead and leave our LCD as x squared minus 1, but these are the same. Okay, so now that we know our LCD, by the way, if you're like kind of confused on this part of the problem, then you need to review how to find the LCD of expressions with variables. Okay, so here's our LCD, and now I'm going to multiply it by the entire equation, okay, each term in the equation. And doing so, I'm going to get 3 times x squared minus 1. Okay, that's pretty straightforward. And then this x squared minus 1 and this x squared minus 1 are going to cross cancel, right? So when I multiply this times this, these two guys go away. Now, hopefully you understand that. And if you're not understanding this, then you probably need to do some basic algebra review. Let's just write it out here real quick. I'm going to take that x squared minus 1 times 10 times x squared minus 1, just to be super safe here, to make sure you understand these two cross cancel, okay? All right, so we're left with 10, and then here I have this x minus 1. Remember, this is the same thing as x plus 1 times x minus 1, so when I multiply this LCD times this 5 over x minus 1, the x minus 1 ones cross cancel. I'm left with 5 times, whoops, I didn't want to do that. Use my highlighter. 5 times x plus 1. Okay, so if you were able to get to this part of the problem without even me telling you the LCD or anything else, then, I must just extend your happy face and give you a little bit of a mohawk as a reward for doing excellent up to this point. Now, at this point, it's really coming down to your ability to solve this algebra equation. And what type of algebra equation are we dealing with? Well, we're dealing with the quadratic equation because we have an x squared. So let's go ahead and go through the mechanics here. So we're going to go ahead and distribute this 3 to this term here. I got 3x squared minus 3 plus 10. I got my 5x plus 5. Okay, this is basic algebra stuff. If you don't understand this, go back and review. Again, I have tons of videos on this in my pre-algebra and algebra playlist on my YouTube channel. Again, I teach it thoroughly in my courses. All right, so we have 3x squared minus 3 plus 10. So let's just clean up this side. That's 3x squared plus 7, 5x plus 5. So I have this quadratic equation. Let's set everything equal to 0. Okay, you should know how to do that, moving the 5x and the 5 over. When you're dealing with a quadratic equation, for the most part, you want to set everything equal to 0, unless you can take the square root of both sides. Excuse me, if my voice is cracking up, I'm dealing with a little bit of allergies right now, but that's not going to stop me from helping you. All right, let's continue on. All right, at this point, we have this beautiful little trinomial, 3x squared minus 5x plus 2. We want to see if we can factor it. In fact, this can be factored, and here are the factors. Now, another skill, all right? Can you factor? All right, you should be able to factor this into this. If you can't, you're going to have to review factoring. And luckily for you, I have tons of videos on factoring in my courses. Obviously, I teach it thoroughly and in my YouTube channel. So let's just review the skills up to this point. You're going to know how to find the LCD. You're going to know how to multiply. You're going to need to know how to solve quadratic equations, which means you're going to have to know something about factoring. You see how math is cumulative? You see why you need to be taking notes and practicing this stuff? So there's just too much information for you to kind of just remember this stuff. And there's no cheating the system, unfortunately. If there was a shortcut, I would tell you it. There is no shortcut other than working hard. Okay, so we could factor this trinomial. Here's our factors, and this is set equal to 0. So this is a beautiful thing because this factor times this factor is 0. So if anything times it's something else is 0, then I'm like, well, how did that happen? Something times something else, and the answer is 0. Well, that means that this is either 0 or this is either 0. This is called the zero product property, and then we can go ahead and solve for x. So we have x is equal to 3 halves here, and here we have x is equal to 1. Remember, we're dealing with a quadratic equation, so there's always two solutions. Now, at this point, okay, if you got up to this point, a lot of students can get to this part of the problem, okay, and that's excellent. Now, what does this mean? What are we doing? Well, let's go back and just recall we're trying to solve this equation. And now we just got two answers. Okay, we got x is equal to, what was that, 3 halves? Let me go down here. X is equal to 2/3 and 1. Okay, so x is equal to 2/3 and 1. Now, a lot of students would stop and they would turn this in. Okay, they would be done, and they'd be like, "Yay, I'm awesome in algebra, and I'm expecting to get a 10 out of 10 points on this particular question." And then, unfortunately, they turn this in, and then I give them like a 7 or 6 out of 10. And then they got the sad face look. They're like, or maybe they're angry. I mean, they're like, "What are you talking about? Yeah, I did this perfectly." No, you did not do this perfectly. You're doing good up to this point, and this is the point that I'm going to illustrate now. Okay, now, when you're dealing with rational expressions, these answers here are the solutions to this equation. We do not know yet whether, in fact, these are the answers to the original equation, and there's a reason why. Okay, what we're talking about here is something called extraneous roots. So you must check these answers, these potential answers. These are just candidates. These are possible answers into the original equation. And remember, we're trying to solve the original equation, not that other quadratic equation. And this is where most students fail to do this. They think it's like optional. Like, no, I don't need to verify my solutions. Here's my answers. Have a nice day type of thing. No, no, no. This is not like an optional thing. You must check these answers. Okay. So let's check x equals 1 into this original equation and see if it works. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to replace this x with, and these x's here, with x is equal to 1. Okay, we think that's a possible solution. So let's go ahead and replace those x's with 1 right there, and let's look to see what is going to happen right here. Well, we get 1 squared minus 1. I'm going to end up with 10 over 0. Okay, you see how this is going to become 0? 1 squared is going to be 1 minus 1. That's going to become a 0. This is a big no-no in math. You cannot have 0, never ever, in the denominator. So x equals 1 is not a solution. All right, we got to throw this thing out. Okay, that's not good. This is very harmful to this equation. So if you just blindly said, oh, here's my answer is x equals 1. No, x equals 1 is not. It's what we call extraneous or extra. Okay, and I'm going to explain to you how that happens. Now, I'm not going to spare you the details, but x equals 2/3. If I was to plug this into the equation and do all the math, that works. Okay, but I'm going to spare you all that calculation. So this, in fact, does work. But if you want to pause the video and do it, just kind of satisfy your own curiosity to see that that works, you can go in and do that. But believe me, this does work. So this is our solution. But we had to verify that. We had to check that. Okay. But again, we found this extra solution. So sometimes you don't know how many extraneous solutions you're going to have, right? Sometimes they both work or all your answers work. Sometimes none do. You just don't know. You have to check every single time. So this is the point I'm trying to make. But let's really kind of understand this from another angle, okay? Now, in algebra, there's this kind of concept of whatever you do to one side of the equation, as long as you do it equally to both sides, you know, you're not breaking the equation. Well, that's true when we're dealing with numbers. Let's look at this equation here. Okay, x equals 3. I'm going to talk about this same equation over here in a second. What is the answer to this equation? Now, some of you are like probably thinking to yourself, this guy is kind of like, I thought this guy was a smart math teacher. X equals 3. Obviously, well, what's the answer? I'm asking you. Okay, well, the answer is 3. Okay, what number is equal to 3? Well, 3 is equal to 3. 3 is the only value, not -3, not 4, not 10. There's only one number that makes this statement true. So the answer to this equation here is 3. 3 is equal to 3. Now, let's multiply both sides of this equation by 2. Okay, so we end up with 2x is equal to 6. All right, so I'm multiplying both sides of the equation by the same number, and now I have 2x is equal to 6. Let's solve this equation. Well, then I go, oh, I divide both sides of the equation by 2. So again, x equals 3 is the solution to 2x equals 6. Okay, again, one number. Okay, x is equal to 3. So what the point I'm trying to make here is that when I multiply both sides of the equation by a number, okay, everything was fine. Okay, I didn't break the equation. The equation looked differently, but I ended up with the same answer. So that's a real big tenet, big principle in algebra. But what is different in these type of problems? Now remember, way back over here, what did we do to solve this equation? Well, we multiply by the LCD. This involves a variable, okay? So now we're multiplying some variable on this equation, both the left-hand and right-hand side. And when you do that in algebra, well, then crazy stuff can happen. You can have extraneous roots. So let's go ahead and see that in this simple example. All right, so x equals 3. Again, we know that the only answer that makes this true is 3, okay, because 3 is equal to 3. Now, let's go ahead and multiply both sides of the equation by x. Now, this is not a number, this is a variable. And what's going to happen? Well, I'm going to get x squared is equal to 3x. Okay, well, let's solve this equation. So I can go like this, x squared minus 3x is equal to 0. And I could factor out an x, that's going to be x times x minus 3. Okay, that's equal to 0. All right, so again, this is like the zero product property. So x is equal to 0. That's one solution because this is a quadratic equation. And then x minus 3, that's equal to 0, so x is equal to 3. So x is equal to 3, that was what our original solution was supposed to be. Okay, but now I got this thing right here, x equals 0, right? Well, if I was to say, yeah, here's my answer, x equals 0, and I was to plug it in, remember, this is my original equation. I just started messing with it by multiplying both sides of the equation by x. Well, 0 is not equal to 3, so this is not true. We got to throw that out. So anytime you multiply the entire equation, i.e. both the left and right hand side of the equation, by anything that involves a variable expression, you can introduce extraneous solutions. So you have to check your answers. It's not optional. And most students don't appreciate this. Matter of fact, they forget this. And if you were to have them explain, what is an extraneous solution and why do we get them? Well, this is why you get them, okay? And you got to be very careful in algebra when you're dealing with an expression. As soon as you start multiplying, and by the way, you need to multiply the left to right hand side by this variable expression to clear the fraction. So you need to do these steps, but the bottom line is you need to check your potential solutions to see which ones are extra, if you have any extra solutions or any solutions at that. Okay, so hopefully now you're like, oh, okay, now I got that. But I'll tell you, if you understood everything I just said thoroughly, and you already knew that going into this video, then I must reward you with a gigantic happy face, a nice mohawk. Matter of fact, I would give you one of those long, crazy mohawks that back in the 1980s that people would wear, and they used a lot of hairspray. Probably quite dangerous to use that much hairspray. On your hair. But people did have these crazy mohawks, and that is excellent. Okay, I'm going to give you an A plus and 100%, and I would give you like 3 or 4 stars. Matter of fact, I might just say if you're in my class, just go home, take the textbook, teach yourself. You're probably watching that guy on YouTube help you out. Listen, that's great. All right. In other words, I'm being quite serious. That shows me that you, if you understood this, that you are highly focused in your math class. So good for you. Keep up the good work. But if you are like, all right, I didn't really know that, well, then don't feel bad. The whole idea is to teach you more, is have you walk away from this video with better understanding of mathematics and more math skills, okay, so you can be successful. So if that is the case, if you're walking away with like, oh, it wasn't a waste of my time, please consider smashing that like button. That helps me out. And if you're new to my YouTube channel, please consider subscribing. I've been on YouTube for 10 plus years. I know I have over 1,000 videos. I don't even count. All I do is focus on trying to make math clear and understandable. That's my goal, okay? No one should be failing math these days. If you're doing your part, taking great notes, talking to your teacher, really trying to improve, there's tons of resources out there that you can use to get additional instruction. So if you like my teaching style, check out all my videos on my channel. I have basic to advanced mathematics, but my best math help will be in my math help program. Okay, so with that being said, I definitely wish you all the best in your mathematics adventures. Thank you for your time and have a great day.